I believe the single most powerful tool in learning is the use of a question and follow-up questions and follow-up questions to those follow-up questions and asking, why is that? And after they give a reply, answering, why is that again? So I want to talk about questions. They are so powerful in bringing about learning. And as I was recently writing some articles about debriefing and after action reviews and the secret sauce of learning, which I will have links down below for those articles. As I was working on those and looking over my life and what impacted me the greatest in my learning and the best tool that I learned as a facilitator, as a trainer, as a teacher, that tool was definitely using questions and learning how to ask questions and be observant. The process of asking the right question, of course, is to be very good at observing people's actions and asking them questions, being careful that they're not necessarily leading questions, although leading questions are useful and can be used. It also has to be used with caution. But questions that come out of observations of what people are doing and not assuming why they're doing them, but asking questions in such a way that allows them to explain why they did things or what their assumptions were, what their thinking was. But those questions that also will help them to pay attention and think back about what they were doing and what their assumptions were, what they were expecting to happen, what actually happened. And so questions become that central process of learning. We all know that kids, when they're young, ask a lot of questions. They will drive you crazy with questions. And my wife learned the tool of turning around and asking them questions when they ask questions. Jesus did this too. Somebody asked him a question, he'd ask them a question to find out what they're what they were thinking and why they were thinking. And, of course, they were trying to use leading questions to try to trap him. But anyways, so questions are great tools, and I think that we see that throughout history, whether it's Socrates or Jesus or your mom asking you, how was your day? Well, how was your day? If you just answer it was okay, and she didn't ask further, then she missed an opportunity. And that's what I'm getting at. It's not just asking the question. It is thinking about the response that they give and then asking further and allowing them to then process and learn. If you don't have a student's attention, then they're not going to learn. And even YouTubers use this method of getting people's attention so that you watch a video. They generally ask a question and or have a strange looking face, or going like this or something along that line. What they're trying to get you to do is to click on it and why did they ask that? Why, what's this about? Type thing. So questions. Well, let me just explain how I came to this insight. 25 years ago, I went to a 3-day training class taught by Simon Spiller as a facilitator on experiential learning. And those 3 days really impacted me because Simon was a great facilitator, great with questions. He gave us these low challenge activities, and if we were successful, he went back and made it a little harder so that we would struggle with it and so that we would learn from failure. as well as our successes. But he always followed up with questions about, what we were thinking, what we believed, um, and how this related back to the workforce. And I gained a lot of insights about myself and about, work in general. And since then, I have used the tool, numerous times. I've also been a participant in other people's, debriefing and other people's challenge courses and things along that line. And having been a facilitator of those things, of course, I've always critique them, and some did, fairly well, but most just did not take advantage of the time. Well, I'll put it this way: many didn't just didn't take time to debrief at all, or just ask some superficial questions, and didn't understand how powerful a tool they had and what an opportunity they had missed. I also saw the same thing in interviews. I taught people how to interview. That was part of my job, was not only to interview people for jobs, but also to train other people to do job interviews. And we've all been through job interviews where somebody says, tell me about a time you blah, blah, blah. And you tell them about a time, and again, because I knew what the expectation was, of course, I kind of went into detail on those things. But some people didn't do that. And I observed interviewers that I later gave feedback to that, asked a question, got a response, and then moved on to the next question. It's kind of like this checklist, da da da, do you, da, yep, okay. What about a time that you, da da, okay, we check that. But they really weren't listening, because within that person's response in the interview, they had an opportunity to turn around and go, wham, follow up and dig a little bit deeper, cause that person to really open up to what they are like and how they handle things, and not just the question they were ready for, that they already had a canned response that they gave to the interviewer, and the interviewer accepted that. A lot of people tell half-truths, lie in interviews, and probing a little bit kind of puts them in a spot and more likely to get a true response of what those situations and interactions were in their previous jobs and their previous life experience. So questions are part of a number of different things, and I think they're all connected. And I think we should realize that when we learn how to ask good questions, listen, do good follow-up questions, and then look for what we can do that can change those things into actionable items as well in that facilitating process, then we have a whole process. So so whether we're doing a challenge course, either high or low challenge course, and we're facilitating that, whether we're doing after action reviews. I mean, after a team has worked on a project and they've seen the outcomes of those projects, then that after action review should have someone facilitating it that has observed some of the processes, has gone along, has done some pre-work, so that they have a list of questions to ask, and then not just ask the question and check it off and give the response, but probe those questions and help people get a deeper understanding of themselves, how that event went, what their expectations were, what the reality was, why was that different, and then look towards outcomes from that after action review that will lead into people that are better prepared for the next project that they're involved with, and also understand their fellow employee, their fellow teammate in those things, and understand their boss, and their boss has insights into how to manage them, and they have insight into how to manage their boss in those cases. So there's a lot of talk about purposeful learning these days, and the book Peak, talks about learning purposeful skills. All of those things start off with asking key questions. What are the key elements? And if you read through Peak, he lists the types of questions that you should be asking of someone who has the skill that you're trying to learn, and how to be very effective in learning that new skill, because it's purposeful. It's not just I'm playing chess and learning how to play chess, but I'm purposefully learning certain skills in that. The thing about the 10,000 hours or whatever it is that you're supposed to learn, it doesn't take that long. It can be done in a shorter time. In just a couple thousand hours, learn something and be as good as the very best champions, because you asked the right questions and you set up a process of what the actionable items of how to get to that skill. So purposeful learning simulations. There's a whole debriefing process on doing simulations, and so that people will learn from doing an activity that's similar to an activity that they're going to use in real life, but to make that simulation an actual learning process, and not that I just pull this lever, or I use this particular knife or this particular thing, but I understand deeply what that's about and what can go wrong with it, and how to do those preventive things. In-action reviews are the same as after-action reviews. They ask different questions because you're in the middle of an activity, but it's the same process of asking questions along the way. Debriefing tends to be a little less formal than after-action reviews. Sometimes the two words are used interchangeably. I even put down journaling as a type of debriefing. It's a debriefing at the end of the day. And so you're asking certain questions. What happened during my day? What was my expectations? What can I learn from it? And then also after actionable things for the next day from those things. So I want you to read these articles that I've written. I've taken a lot of thought to put into them, and I've just given you just a little taste of them. Also, like for you to click down below, click subscribe, and click like. Help me get the word out. I want to do more videos along this line, and certainly more writing along this line, going into more depth, to help people that are involved in training, involved in management, involved as teachers. Have a number of years of experience. Learned a lot of things, some things the hard way. I have war stories like anybody does after being in the workforce a number of years. And I think there are opportunities for learning and for all of us to do a better job.